Hello, everybody. Welcome to Nikki Abridged. Woo. I am your host, Nikki, and I'll be taking you through my yarn journey and living here in the Netherlands. So just to kind of give you like an overview of a few things. So I am Nikki. I grew up in the United States and I moved to the Netherlands in August of 2018. And so one of the things that I like to do is to kind of chronicle a little bit of what it's like to live in another country than the one that you grew up in, and kind of see the differences, and also encourage other people to be able to maybe get outside their comfort zone and check out other countries as well. Given how, there's not a lot of travel happening yet still in the world, this is another way for people to be able to travel without having to leave their homes. So I'm providing that service for you as well. So if you have any questions or anything you want me to talk about, feel free to put it into the chat. I'll be keeping an eye on the chat. And if there's something you want me to talk about in a future stream, I will be happy to do that. My hope is to make this into kind of a semi-regular feature where we just kind of get together and chat for an hour about various things that, about what kind of daily life and what daily life looks like living in the Netherlands, and especially comparing that to living from somewhere else. And of course, my main experience is living in the United States, so that is the main thing that I compare against. Okay, so let's talk about yarn. So for me, here's my yarn journey. Is around 2013, my sweetie, a fellow I had been dating for about a year, well, less than a year at that point, he was big into knitting, and he also knows how to crochet. And he taught me both of those at the time. And while the knitting didn't really catch for me, crochet did. And just so you know what kind of knitting, like he knitted this lovely stuffed TARDIS for me. So he knitted that. And I thought, wow, how cool is that you can take yarn and make something really neat. So I wanted to also engage with that. But like I said, the knitting didn't really connect for me. But crocheting, I figured somehow that made sense and I was able to do it. Here, we're gonna have crazy TARDIS today. That's one of the nice things about it being squishy. You can squish it all over. Okay, she's gonna lay on her side for a little while. All right, so that's kind of where I started. I started with crocheting, and I started going like all over the place. Now I was running a convention, a sci-fi and fantasy convention, and so I made some things for that. Well, first off, I started making granny squares. Like I think everybody makes granny squares, and you just make that and keep going, and it makes bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and pretty soon you've got like this giant thing you don't know what to do with, right? So that's kind of where I started. And basically, my cat just ended up with blankets that she could lay on, and she liked that. But then my first project, and let me bring this up for you. There we go. So these are some of my first projects. Let me move that one out of the way. There we go. So up in the top corner, you can see there's a yellow and black striped scarf, and that was my first project. And so that was a Harry Potter blanket, or excuse me, scarf that I was making. And I think it was just pretty much double crochet forever. Like I think I just double crocheted and kept going and kept going. Looking at that now, I'm amazed at how straight my lines looked on the sides. I'm pretty impressed with that because I cannot make a straight line, it seems like sometimes. So you can see kind of in the middle picture is another shot of the scarf after it was finished. And so I wore it and it was really long. It was way longer than I meant for it to be. Because again, right, we're talking first projects. Things get out of control. You do what you can. So that was early part of my journey. And then, then I made like some little strawberries because that was part of what we were doing for, one of the things I was doing was Firefly was one of the fandoms that we had in the event that I was running. And so I made like the little strawberries like Kaylee, was eating at one point. And so we had those like out on tables and stuff. And then we also focused on Game of Thrones for a little while. And so I made some crocheted dragon eggs. They were really cool. And I got really, I just fell in love with that, that dragon shell stitch that you can make where you kind of do like 5 around a post, and you chain 1, and then you do 5 more around a post, and it makes this cool, scale. It looks like a dragon scale. So I fell in love with that. I thought that was just like the most fun thing ever. So I started doing a lot of those, and we made 3 for the event, and then I just kept making them for various other things, and I gave them away to friends and stuff like that. And then we started doing a steampunk convention also. And I thought, boy, wouldn't it be cool if I could make something for that? And so then I made some crocheted spats. I went online basically, and I was like, well, what can I make that would be really interesting that people at, the steampunk and costuming convention would be really interested in? So I tried making spats, and they were cool and they were fun, but they weren't really popular. So I had fun making that, and they definitely came out in various sizes, unintentionally. But again, this was early parts of my journey, right? So my tension was still not consistent. I was just doing crazy stuff. Like I thought, oh, I can do that, and I just start doing it, and without really having a lot of foundation of skills. I hadn't had a lot of practice, right? But this is how I got practice. So I did have a lot of fun making those as well. And then I got into Tunisian crochet because, again, I love the look of the knitting. How it's kind of got the V's that you get when you knit something. And I think that's really cool. But again, knitting was not something that seemed like it was something I was capable of doing. And I was still very much into crochet. I love the crocheting. So I thought, okay, we ran across this idea of the Tunisian crochet. And so then we made a couple of scarves. So I've got some show and tell for you. So I made a scarf for me. Again, we went with the Hufflepuff colors, but it's the colors that Newt Scamander had in his in the movies that he was in. So it's more of the gray and less of the black. So we've got we've got gray and yellow. But you can see how it has that kind of V look to it that you get out of knitting. So that was really neat. I had a good time with that. And the back just looks like a bunch of bubbles. It's like ridges all the way along. So it has a different look on the back. But I really came to enjoy that Tunisian crochet. So I made that scarf for me. And then I made another one for Sweetie in the Ravenclaw colors. So, and often these get folded in half, so they have a big ridge right down the middle. So that was that scarf. And then I also made, here, I'll bring up that other picture. So I also made a green and silver one for Slytherin. And it also kind of coincided with around the same time as a really bad year where a bunch of people we knew had cancer. So we made a bunch of scarves that we gave our opinions about that, saying F cancer on a bunch of scarves that we made. So there you can see kind of the Tunisian crochet journey that I went on more with those bottom pictures. And you can see in the picture on the far right there, the scarf that I just held up. It was long enough that you can, really bundle it around. It's great for colder weather. Because that was one of the things that came out of the first scarf that I did was, because it was just double crochet, it was very open and a lot of wind could easily get through. So even though it looked neat and it was super long, so you could, wrap it around and around and around, it still didn't do the function that I wanted it to do, which was what this one does, which is to provide me with some warmth. So that was kind of a journey that we went on with the Tunisian crochet there. All right, so that was a lot of fun. So then we kind of got into a project, and I'm not sure how I'm going to show you this. We got into a project where we wanted to do a blanket together. Well, so Sweetie had been doing a knitted sampler blanket that he had started before we got together, and he'd been working on it off and on for a while because things get busy. And so then he focused on finishing that up. So that was one project that was kind of finally done and out of the way. So then we were like, well, it would be fun to do something like that, but together. Because, it was just nice because we were busy. We were often going places. We were, going to other people's conventions and running, well, sometimes at our convention, but we were usually pretty busy at our convention. But when we were at other people's events that we were volunteering at and then attending the rest of the time, we would find ourselves, you know, maybe sitting somewhere and listening to somebody talking about really interesting things, but, you know, your hands are available. And it kind of was one of those where it's like, well, okay, what would we like to make next? It'd be cool to make something together. So Sweetie went and found this cool image of a Hogwarts blanket, and I'll just hold up a piece of it that basically, well, maybe I can hold up all of it. We've stored it away. I think I'm gonna have to pull the whole thing out. It's in a suitcase because it got warm here. So that's one thing, is the Netherlands in June, it feels rather warm. It's like, wow, this week is in the mid-20s for the high, which, in Celsius, which I can't even tell you what that is in Fahrenheit anymore. It's so funny, I've realized that I can tell you some temperatures, I know what they feel like in Celsius. I know what mid-20s feels like in Celsius, and it feels warm. Like, we're talking shorts, t-shirts, hairpin ponytail most of the time, that kind of thing. And I can tell you that, like, when we get into single digits in Celsius, like 7, 5, that's cold. That's like, gotta get bundled up, gotta get my blankets on and all of that. So, yeah, so it's mid-20s here right now. So, and it's been popping up to that a lot recently. So we don't need a blanket on the bed, but we made a big blanket. So we started making this. Yeah, do you want to hold the other end of it? Maybe we can hold it up. It's crazy. So we did basically blocks. You can kind of see as we'll pull it across here. Hello. And it's all folded up now at this point. But so it's the different Hogwarts houses done in squares. And like a patchwork of squares. So you've got your Ravenclaw colors over here. We've got our Gryffindor colors here. You've got Slytherin's in here somewhere. So this is a big blanket, and it fits on basically like a queen. It fits on a queen bed, but it's bigger than that. It hangs off the edge, and then we fold it up actually on the end. It's huge. This thing turned out big. So and then we put this cute little scalloped edge on this. So when we decided to make this blanket, we went and bought a bunch of acrylic yarns. Now we were still living in the United States at this point. And so you could go to your big retailers like your Michael's, your Walmart or whatever, and you can get like giant skeins of yarn. So for example, this is a pound of black yarn, right? And this is a ridiculous amount of green yarn. But we didn't want to spend a lot of money on the blanket. Or I didn't want to spend a lot of money on the blanket. And I was still very much like, I don't know how good my skills are, and I don't want to spend a lot of money on really fancy materials. So almost everything else I had been making up to this point had been done in acrylic, cheap yarn, as cheap as we could get. Now the only exception to that, I think, was the blue scarf that I did for Sweetie. We went to our local yarn shop, and picked up, I think, some wool, I think is in this one. So it's still pretty soft, but it's not full on acrylic. So I was a little nervous, but I had already made my scarf and it turned out okay. So, I was a little more confident to give that a try. But pretty much everything else, at this point, we're talking a lot of acrylic, because again, it's really cheap. And so that whole blanket, the Hogwarts blanket, was completely made out of acrylic. Now, the funny thing is when we went to put it together, we've got the squares all patterned out. It was like a 4x4 for each of the sections. And then we had a middle section of like 4x4 of gray, and then a crest that was going to go in the middle of that. So a couple things came together at that point so at this point we're here in the Netherlands, and we've brought all this yarn with us, as well as the pieces, like the squares that we'd been doing, because we had just like stacks and stacks of these squares and to put them together. And as we started to put them together, we realized this blanket was growing. It had grown, and not that like the early squares were small and the later squares were big. Like we did a pretty good job of keeping the squares the same sizes. They were like each 12 by 12 inches, I think. I think we started off in inches because we hadn't moved over here yet. Because over here it's metric. And so I've gotten much better at, when I'm working with my tape measure, I'm measuring things in centimeters over here now. But I think we were still working in inches there. Yeah, so they were like, yeah, so 12, I can little, what's that you say off on the side? Yeah, so we got like 12 inches by 12 inches, so, foot square. And it was big. There was just a lot of blanket. At this point, I've started playing Lord of the Rings online, and I was kind of keeping the kinship up to date on the things that I was doing with the blanket. And because that's a very Hobbity thing to do, is to talk about, knitting and crocheting a blanket. And I joke, I call it the blanket for 12 Hobbits, because it's huge. It's really huge. So what we did is we decided not to include the gray squares because I just, the things had happened, and the blanket was big enough, and I was ready to move away from associating it directly with Harry Potter and with that franchise. I'm not happy with the author, and so I've kind of moved away from that a little bit. So, all right, so we ended up, it just kind of became a generic square blanket, but you still know, you could think of it as Game of Thrones colors or any other thing where, groups have colors, but it's those colors. Okay, so after that finished, here we are in the Netherlands. It's the winter time, and we're indoors a lot because, it's the current situation. So it was a question of, what do we do? What do we do now? Because I had gotten really used to having the blanket on my lap while I'm sitting here at the computer, because again, we're not going out a lot because it's in the middle of the pandemic and everything, but we finished that blanket and I'm ready to do more blanket stuff, right? I'm kind of grooving on getting back into crocheting and having a lot of fun with that. So I wanted to use up the extra yarn that we had bought. And remember, like I said, we bought these giant skeins of yarn back at Michael's, I think it was, in the US, And so we've got all this acrylic yarn sitting around. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to Europe, and those of you who are in the chat, you can let me know if where you have lived. But the houses in the US and the houses in Europe tend to not be of similar size. The houses here are smaller, and that it's based off of a number of things. But if you want to just talk historically, you've got housing here was generally built before cars. It was, people were getting around on horse, they were getting around on foot, they were getting around on bicycle. Once you get into a little bit later, but so basically, everything existed close by because you weren't traveling far distances. It made sense to be near the baker, to be, if the baker was far away, nobody's going to buy the baked goods, right? You want your baker to be close by so you can get by there really fast. So we are now we're currently living in a 60 square meter apartment, which is like 500 to 600 square feet for an apartment. So, it's not bad. Sorry, I've got a little itch there. Which is not bad. It's a fair size, really. We've got 2 rooms, as they call it. It's a 2-room apartment. We've got this room, which is our living room, as well as dining area and kitchen area. And then we have the bedroom, which is over there. And in between, behind this wall that you see behind me is the bathroom, but it has another wall on the other side of the bathroom, but it's basically in the bedroom. So that's like the whole house, right? So, and yeah, like pre-World War II and before the suburban expansion happened in the US, houses did happen to be a lot smaller. But, I've grown up in those larger houses, and before we moved here, we also had a larger house that we were sharing with roommates and whatnot, but it was a fair-sized house. So, so where I'm at now in my mindset is, if something is in the house, it needs to be here on purpose. Like, I'm trying to not have stuff, right? Make sure that everything is here because it has a purpose. And I'm very utilitarian in some ways. So I want everything, like, if it's taken up rent space in my house, it's got to be worth the rent that we're paying for it. So we had all this acrylic yarn still sitting around and trying to figure out what to do with it. Well, I was like, I'll make another blanket. So that's where this one came in. And so I went online and I was looking around at Ravelry and other websites, but that's pretty much where I spent most of my time. And So I found this really cool kind of sampler blanket. It's called, so one thing I've discovered is that, so funny, that people make patterns for different projects and they give them funny names. And I think the point is because they want you to go and find that again later. So this is the Spicier Life because there's a Spicy Life sampler. And then this is like, you know, the sequel. So this is the Spicier Life. And so it's kind of cool. It starts up here and you start with like, this is the grannies section and you make these and then you go and it tells you to do it and you know, there's so many colors and then you move into this section and then you move into these things and you just keep working through these different sections where she's, you know, having you do different kinds of stitches. Oops, let me open that up again, sorry. Yeah, so we've got a whole bunch of different stitches that, you know, she walks you through. And the pattern calls for 14 different colors, and she's got like this color palette that you work from. I was not about to go buy more yarn. I was at the point, I'm like, nope, we're gonna use up what we have here. And so I had 11 colors. And so I spent a whole bunch of time like sketching out like on the back of an envelope, the different colors and how, you know, was color A going to take over various points and, you know, how is that going to work? Because I didn't want to have like the same color repeating over and over and over and over and over, right? You want to have some variation on the colors and you also want the colors to work together nicely. And so there was a couple of times when I was like, I don't think I like that. I'm going to move that off and switch it to another color. And then I'd look ahead in the pattern to see was that going to cause a problem or not? And so I had fun with that. And then there were some things where I was like, yeah, I'm just not digging this stitch. I'm not going to, it's supposed to be done like 4 times. I'm only going to do it twice. We're done. Or whatever. You know, so I did make some adjustments as I went along. So here's like all the rest of the blanket if you want to see all of it. Whee! Yeah, so I had a lot of fun making this one. It came out with some really cool color combinations. There were some neat things that I learned how to do, like these, there's like these ridges here, these kind of stripy lines that stick up above what's kind of like the base of it. So this was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed playing with the colors, and so I might do something like this again sometime. Now this is acrylic, and as I've mentioned possibly before, and so this is very, it doesn't breathe a lot, right? So like it holds the heat in really, really well. I mean, you're basically, I mean, acrylic's basically made out of plastic. So I'm covering myself with, you know, crocheted plastic, which, you know, as understandably, it holds a lot of heat. And it can be a little, I don't know, scratchy is not quite the right word, but it kind of, like right now, sitting on my lap because I'm wearing shorts, and it is, I'm not liking it. So I'm gonna move that off. But it's great in the wintertime when I'm all bundled up and I want a huge amount of heat. And this one, because I use so many different yarns, and some of them are softer and some of them were thicker, it's the sort of thing that you know, I'll look back in the future and be like, what was I thinking putting this like size 4 next to the size 8 or whatever, you know, like, it's hilarious. I love how when you don't know what you're doing, you can make anything, right? So that's kind of what this was. This is I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm just going to do it blanket. So one of the cool things that I learned from that is so like I said, I had 11 different yarns that I was working with, and they, you know, they were lettered like A, you know, A through L, whatever it was, and well, it went through O, but some letters were doubled up. So what I did is I also have like a bag addiction. I love having bags. This is that same Harry Potter blanket or bag that you saw with my scarf earlier, like at the very beginning, the first scarf that I made. But they have, you know, it's a good size. This is like it was the perfect size for sticking some of these skeins of yarn in. So I could actually fit like 3 skeins of yarn across. And so then I had like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, in these separate bags. And that was really a great way to organize all of those different yarns that I was working with. And it was really cool because I don't know that I would have come up with the same solution if I had been like in a house where I had a room that was the craft room, for example, and I could just spread it all out. But given that I'm working in my living space, which is also my working space, which is also basically my eating space. Like, I didn't want to spread out, and I didn't, and like this is our couch, and sometimes we want to lie down on it, and so I wanted to make sure that it was movable, it was portable, it was contained, and it was functional in a way that worked for me. So I just had like 4 of these bags lined up on the couch. Doop, 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 doop. And as I finished, a color, and I, cut it off, stuff it back in on the ends, and then I'd be able to go to the next bag and pull the next color, start from the bag, and I just work out of the bags. So that was really interesting. That was a fun part of that journey. That was something I learned, and I hope I remember it in the future when I'm doing another project like that, because that was a really cool way to do that. Okay, so then, all right, so we finished the blanket of 11 colors. And that one was cool. And then I still had a lot of yarn left. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do this again. But I didn't have the same amount of colors. I had more like 8 colors left. So, which was cool. I was like, all right, we're working through some of this. But I'm like, okay, we're going to make another one. And I don't know why I decided to make another blanket. I think I'm trying to get back into my head. I mean, this isn't that long ago. This is just like January. Everything feels like it's a long time ago right now. But I think what I was thinking is that I really still wanted to get more practice in just crocheting, right? I wanted to get more practice in just doing it over and over and I wanted something that I could just kind of relax and into, and have a project where I'm just doing something and not having to really think too hard about it. So it's something for my hands to do that is both productive and that I come out with a project, I come up with a product that's done at the end of it. But it would also be something where I would learn more, like I'd get that muscle memory. And so I'd have that tension that would be consistent throughout a project. And I was getting close to that. I feel like I was getting close to that with the sampler blanket, with the Spicier Life blanket. So this one I found, and I adapted it a little bit because I can't seem to do anything straight from a page, it seems like. So this is the X's and O's blanket, as they call it, because you do like a crisscross. Every section, maybe I should pick a brighter colored section to show you. All right, so every section has like a crisscross that you do. So like, you just crisscross as you go along. And then you've got the bubbles in the middle. So that's the O's. And then this is the X's. So it's like the Hugs and Kisses blanket or something like that. So that's what the title that she gave to this, which I thought that's pretty cute. So I started at one end. That's interesting. I'm not sure if I can remember. I think I started at this end. So I did intentionally make it so that the 2 ends end the same. So we've got like, let me go this way, a gray and a black and a gray and a black to kind of bookend it, because I like that symmetry of it. And then I didn't want it to be like a rainbow necessarily. I didn't want you to be able to like anticipate the progression of the colors. I wanted it to feel kind of random. And so I tried to be as random as I could, but sometimes being random is hard. So what I did do though is I liked the sections, and I wanted to have each section be its own thing. And I had, oh my gosh, so much gray. Because remember that Hogwarts blanket? The middle sections that were going to be gray, then we scrapped that idea. Well, so then we had like a ton of gray yarn left over. I was like, well, how am I going to use up this gray yarn? And it's really scratchy. So I was like, okay, well, here we go. We're going to make a blanket with it. And so it's the initial section, but it's also, I just took it and made it as the divider between the sections. So that was another way to use up more of the gray yarn. So I thought, okay, that works out. Now, we got to the end of this one, and couple cool things came together on that, I suppose, in that it used up a bunch more yarn, so that made me pretty happy. And it's also very warm and acrylic and a little scratchy. And so, yeah, a couple of things kind of came together for me at that point. I was starting to feel a lot more confident in my stitches. Like I can look at this and, I mean, obviously I can find the mistakes because, I mean, that's how it is, right? If you're a crafter, like everybody else is like, oh my gosh, it's amazing, it looks fantastic. And you're like, yeah, except for that part there and then that part over there. And oh my gosh, did you see I dropped a stitch? I like totally missed a stitch over here. And then it's wobbly over here. And like, where all the imperfections are. But other people don't. And so that's kind of exciting. Like, for example, I ran out of various colors or started to. And so I thought, oh, well, let's get a little creative. So like with the yellow, I added a stripe of black in the middle of it to stretch the yellow a little bit. And then I finished off with yellow. So it was still the yellow band before, it got cap ended with the gray. I don't know if I like that look. Like afterwards, I was like, I think I would have done that differently. And I did the same thing in the red because I was like, okay, well, let's do it in the red so that way it's not just the yellow looking weird on its own. And I think, I think I would have done things a little differently. But one of the things I'm still learning to get comfortable with is frogging, which is the term that people use when you rip out your stitches, you undo them. And because you're undoing them, you're ripping them out. So ripping sounds a little bit like ribbit, which is like a frog, ribbit. So I'm getting better about frogging my stuff. But it's still, I feel a little nervous still in ripping things apart. So, all right. So that's why I didn't undo some of those things. And I'd gotten far enough along that I thought, well, I needed to look at it. And then looking back, you always want to go like, oh, I wish I could rearrange fabric, but you really can't. So anyways, okay, I'd kind of gotten to a point where it was like, I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to move to the next step. And also, I don't know where to find cheap yarn here necessarily. Like, we don't have Michael's, we don't have Walmart. Or if we do, that's not what I'm looking for, right? And also, I'm ready to move on to some better yarns. So, I started doing a little bit more paying a little bit more attention to what yarns are and what makes up a yarn and what are some of the materials that are out there in the world. And also there's a lot of conversation about the environmental cost of things. So things like the acrylics, when you wash them, they shed a little bit, like everything falls apart, entropy happens. And you lose just a teeny bit of it every time, right? That plastic then, is these microplastics that enter the water system and they become part of our environment. And we don't know what the impacts of that are, right? We don't know, but I don't want to necessarily contribute to that if I can find ways around that. So, I wanted to move into something nicer. I wanted to, nicer than acrylic. And I know it's a value judgment, but that's kind of what makes sense to me. And I wanted to try and see if there are ways that I could use yarns that have what I would consider less of an environmental cost to them. And everything has a cost. I mean, we know that, but it's a question of where's the lowest cost? Is there a way to figure that out? So one of the things I've thought, okay, so if I can buy it locally, then there's not the cost of shipping. If I can buy things that are made possibly within the country or nearby, that's good because then hopefully there's less transportation costs involved. Also, I don't know, but I've read that, smaller places, like if you have a farm of, 15 alpacas and you are creating that yarn from those alpacas, then having that, the processing that it takes to deal with that yarn is less, there's less processing that happens as opposed to if it's going through some huge factory and they don't have time and they don't have the person power to be able to go and do things individually, and so it gets done in batches and they use lots of chemicals possibly and things like that. So my hope is to try and move into those sorts of things. And I've started doing some sourcing and I've started looking around and trying to find local shops and places that also have that same thing in mind. Like I found somebody, and she's here in the Netherlands, and she runs like a yarn club, and it's based on basically she also has those same kinds of interests. And so she tries to find places that have the yarn that fit with those values. And then she has, you know, she contacts people that are in the club and says, hey, do you want any of this? And it goes from there. Now, she also like has a 1-year-old now and is very busy. And of course, with the pandemic, you know, supply chains kind of changed, as you might say. So things are a little different right now. And so there's nothing happening with that. But at the same time, I'm like trying to be mindful and be looking out for things like that. And yeah, and it seems like Europe is interesting because there is a lot of attention paid to like how are the animals treated in general. There's definitely a lot of there's a different way of thinking here in the sense that like this is where like this is where we live and this is where we shop and this is where like all the buildings are. And then you'll go 15 minutes and you're into the pastoral area where, you know, you'll see like herds of sheep doing their thing and it's all green and they're, you know, like these little canals to separate places and to get the grass wet and all of that. So the hydroponics and everything going on there. Then kind of more of a natural style, like you don't see huge apparatuses necessarily doing all this stuff. So it's really interesting. I feel like I've kind of like moved to the old country and sometimes because I don't feel like I'm stuck in a world full of factories and things. I feel like I'm in an area where I can walk to a lot of things. And then if I get out of this area, then there's animals and trees and, you know, and nature. So it's really kind of an interesting, different way of looking at things. So here in town, where we live in a town, this is a city, technically we're in a city, and we're about an hour and a half east of Amsterdam. So Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Utrecht, and The Hague are part of this area that's along the coast of the Netherlands. And that's where the majority of the population in the country lives. We are not in that area. We're further out in the city of Arnhem. And there is one friendly local yarn shop, as they are called, here in the Netherlands. So I put a picture of it there, and that was us visiting it about a week ago. And you can always tell it's the yarn shop because she's got this really cool sheep that is covered in pom-poms outside the shop. It's so cute. It's so cute. So the name of this place is BreiKunst. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. So that is here in Arnhem. That's the yarn shop. I'll put that here in the chat in case anybody is interested. It could be BreiKunst. BreiKunst. Oh, we're thinking it's definitely BreiKunst. Okay. So that's the local yarn shop here. So we went over to the local yarn shop, and I was like, I want to make stuff. And I had been spending some time looking up some ideas, and so I have this scarf that I love, and I wear it a lot, especially when the temperatures are kind of middling, and I just need a little bit to keep my neck warm. Also, one thing is the Dutch are big on scarves. Like they wear scarves all the time. Like you'll see people, you know, riding their bicycle and they've got a scarf on. You'll see them shopping at the store, they've got a scarf on. It's a typical Dutch thing to wear a scarf of some sort. And like I tend to, you know, wrap like this a lot of times, but let me undo that. The Dutch are also very big on, you know, you fold it in half and you bring it around and you pull it through and you do like that. So this is very common, very typical Dutch behavior. And I've been digging it. I'm totally enjoying it. So I wanted to, but I know, you know, eventually the scarf is going to fall apart. And so I'm like, I need to find a replacement for it. And also I'm enjoying making things. So I want to make myself a scarf that's a good replacement for this someday in the future when it falls apart. So I found this adorable paw print pattern. And so it's like these little paw prints that are, you know, wandering their way up the scarf and then all the way down the other side, going back down. So I made, so we went to the store and I bought two sorts of things. First of all, we've got this yarn cake, because I think cakes are amazing. There's just something about them that they have this really cool look to them. And I was like, I want something variegated. I want something that changes colors. And so this was the center. It started off with the dark blue, and then it went to this variegated blue, and then we get into this. So, and I've got some cardboard in the middle to kind of hold it, to keep it from falling in on itself. But so this is the rest of the yarn cake that is here. And this is durable yarn, which I'm not sure if this is available outside of Europe, actually. It's really cool because I love, oh, this one's made in Turkey. So I've discovered that Turkey is a huge manufacturer of fabrics and yarns. I had no idea they were in the textile, like huge on textile stuff. So, so it's cool because on the label, it has a number of different languages. I'm not sure if it'll zoom for us. Come on. Oh, maybe I gotta come in slower. But basically it has like, oops, I turned it too much, 2 and 3 or 4 different languages there. Now I'll just read it to you. So it's like 55% organic cotton, organic baumwolle, yeah. And then they don't spell it acrylic, they spell it acryl, A-C-R-Y-L. So that's so that's fun. But luckily it does have like the little, what looks like a skein of yarn with the number in the middle. So they did put that on here, so that's really handy. And it tells me that's fingering weight and that sort of thing. So that's something I've been learning is, you know, what are the different weights? What does that mean? What is that good for? And also, what are the different materials good for? So anyway, so this is 55% cotton, 45% acrylic. So I didn't completely get away from acrylics, but I have been learning also that something like this, like a cotton, well, your natural fibers off of animals and plants, they don't necessarily hold together as well as, you know, acrylic does. So blending is really common to give it more of a long-lasting ability, and to, yeah, it helps the it just helps the fabric work all together better in the long run. So very squishy. So when I got this, I just wanted to like pet it all day long, because remember I'd been dealing with those acrylics for so long, and those scratchy acrylics, and to bring this home, I was just like, oh, I just want to lay on it. So soft. So we got that, and I made the paw prints. The other thing I wanted to do is I wanted to make a blanket, still stuck on the blankets thing, but I wanted to make something that was more Dutch. So I decided to go with tulips, and I wanted to make something that was going to have more breathable. So instead of being like middle of winter, this is something that could be like spring and fall. So I made this blanket. So, well, first of all, before I show you the blanket, went and bought, here's the fun things we got. So I've got, so Scheepjes is a Dutch brand. It started like 150 years ago. There was a gap, but the company is back and around, and they're making cool stuff. So again, also nice and squishy and soft and fun. So this is a cute little 50-gram ball, right? I think, yeah. It's telling me this other stuff. And it's, oh yeah, 50 grams, 140 meters. And this is 40% cotton, sorry, 60% cotton, 40% acrylic. So again, we're still got some acrylic in here, but this was the first stuff that I started to work with, as well as the ball. That was not like 100% acrylic. And so I decided that the gap between those two was okay, that I'm, you know, not going 100% anti-acrylic. It's fine. You know, we can work with this. So I got this in the cream color. This is a cream. It's actually called Lace. And then in this green color, which is called Pine, for the stems, for the flowers. And then I wanted to have a bunch of different colors for the flowers, for the tulips. And I had seen that there's like these boxes that, you know, you get a little bit of everything. I was like, that'll be perfect. So I also bought this super adorable pastel. The pastel was the only one she had. So I got pastel. And it's all these different colors. So, and you can, I've already run through it. Like each one of these, it's like 10, no, sorry, they're 20 grams each. So 2/5 the size of the other ones I was showing you. And this is how much I have left of each of those. Like there's not a lot left of them. which is what I wanted. I wanted to get it almost perfect. Some of them I have a lot more left, and some of them I have, well, nothing left. I kept the little doodles for now because it has the color names on them, and even though I've already tracked all this in Ravelry, I've been having fun just staring at this cute little box, and I'm hesitant to let it go. I will soon. I mean, we're moving in about 2 months, so I will at some point, downsize and move all these things off into somewhere else. But it's got the Scheepjes name on it, and so I just thought this was so cute, and I had a lot of fun with that. So yes, so I took these colors, and they were the tulip colors, and I wasn't sure how it was going to go because I based this off of the pattern that I bought was actually a pattern for granny skirt for squares, to make squares. And so it was like, you do this much and then you do this much and you do this much, and then you put all these squares together. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted a blanket and I wanted it to have rows. Now I thought about doing the zigzag like I had done on that one. And that was my first inclination. But then I decided, no, I just wanted straight rows of tulips. And so that's what I did. So the blanket's not finished because, okay, so let me show you first of all. So I've got all these different cute rows of tulips. And this was hilarious. The first time I did it, I thought I'd done the math right, and I'd kind of done the math right. Basically, it used one whole of the skeins of the little guys all the way across, and it was basically the same size as the blanket for 12 Hobbits. So I decided that was not what I wanted. I really wanted something that could go on my lap. Something I could pick up, I could move around, I can squish it, I can flop it, whatever. I could wrap around in it if I wanted to, but that's not really its primary function, right? Like I'm gonna make scarves for that. So I really wanted a lap blanket. That's really what I want. So I started all over. So see, I got better, learned to frog. And also the stitches that she had on there were like single crochets, and I wanted more white space in between my layers, between my rows of tulips. And so I did half double crochets for a bunch of it, and I think it turned out really cute. So one thing though, as you'll notice as you're looking at this on screen, you're like, wow, look at all those little balls of color and those little stripes of green, but you can't necessarily tell that they're tulips. So I decided that wouldn't it be cool if the border had another set of flowers, but maybe not tulips, but something that was like more obviously flowers when you see it from a distance. And then when you get close, you're like, aha, your mind will automatically start to fill in the blanks and there'll be tulips. So that's what I'm working on here is these are little windows. I found this cool pattern online of where you make little windows that the flower goes in here where my finger is. So all these little windows are going to have a flower. But I needed more yarn for that. And I didn't want to just duplicate one of the colors on here because I didn't think that was fair to all the colors that didn't get chosen. So I wanted a different color. And so I went back to our friendly local yarn store, BreiKunst then, and she's ordering for me. I picked out like kind of a purplish color because there isn't really a striking purple on here. And so that way it'll be yet another color on the blanket. But I really love this blanket. It's just so, it feels so good. I feel so happy underneath it. And it's definitely squishy, and it's all those things that I wanted. And so it's been so awesome. And so it made me, of course, really love our yarn shop because I was like, sweet, I got something I love and I got it from her, hooray. So that it's been really cool. So I'm excited to have this finished. We're not too far from it. She was gonna order the yarn and it should be in a week or two. So because I was waiting on that yarn. Oh, did I finish? Okay, so I was going to tell you I didn't finish this all right away. So I finished the scarf. I got all the way to the part where you add the fringe. And so the scarf sat like this for a long time, like a month. Okay, that feels like a long time. So it was just ready. It was mostly done, but not that part. And the yarns that I had, I could pull this from the outside, which is kind of like a plain creamy white. And I could pull this from the inside, which is the variegated blue, as you can kind of see there. It's got some multicolors going on there. But that didn't seem right for what the fringe needed. And I eventually found somebody who'd made the same scarf in this very, very similar color. And I was looking at their fringe, and basically I kind of copied what they did, and then I just kind of went off on my own. But what I realized is I needed a solid blue. And so we went back, and that's what this picture is from, is we went back and I wanted more yarn. So I had asked her to get a solid blue. So this is more of the durable yarn. So I made sure I got the same brand because I was hoping that it wouldn't, you know, mess me up, right? And this is again cotton and polyacrylic. So slightly different there, but pretty much the same stuff. So I was able to get some dark blue and finish off the scarf. So now it has this cool fringe, and I think it looks pretty good because we've got, you know, kind of the variable colors over here, and we've got the solid over on this other end. So I wanted to make sure that the two ends, you know, it looks the same, but again, it's going to have to look different because they are different things. So it's really subtle, but I actually did different proportions of the different colors in the fringes. So you wouldn't know that unless I told you probably, or unless you're a crafter yourself and you're like, eyeing this with a really careful eye. But yeah, I had a lot of fun finally finishing that, and I ran it through the wash, and then all the little bits tied together and scrambled up, and so I had to kind of go back and brush them out. So I'm deciding what to do because like I could put little knots at the end so they don't do that again, but I don't think I want that. I could do the thing where you take little bundles and you know, make crisscrosses, like, you know, tie a few from here to here and tie a few from here to here, and, you know, kind of make that lattice kind of pattern across the fringe, but I don't know if I want to do that. It hasn't been cold enough for me to wear the scarf yet since I finished it, because I just finished it like a couple days ago. So I'm still waiting to see what I want to do with the fringe. So this might be finished. It might not be. Stay tuned. So, all right, so that was where we were with that, and we went to the store, and I got the blue so I could finish off the scarf. I ordered the purple so I could finish off that blanket. And then I was like, I want to do more. I'm ready to do more. So while we were there, I picked up this gorgeous yarn cake, and it looks like there's a hole in the middle because I am using it. And it's got like this kind of brown, bronze, gold that starts here, and then it goes off to a pink, like a lighter pink, and then a darker pink, and then a really deep, like red burgundy, but with some brown tones in it. I'm not exactly sure how to describe this, but it's so pretty. And I had been looking at some shawls, because I really have been meaning to make a shawl for about 6 months now, and I keep getting distracted by blankets. But again, part of that was I knew I wanted to do blankets because I wanted to get consistent with my tension, and that was really important to me. So so I picked this up because I had seen some other shawls that had like some earthy colors that then transitioned to something that had more of some richness, like a dye richness to it. And I thought that would be cool. And so when I saw this at the store, I thought, this is the thing. We're going to try it with this one. And so this is a brand called Lang Yarns, and this color is called Bloom. It's right there, big and bold. And this is 70% cotton, 18% viscose, and 12% linen. So that was cool because this is some new to me fabrics, right? I haven't spent time with viscose, but I was really curious about it because viscose is basically you take plants and you mush them all up and then you make yarn out of it. Like, what a cool idea is that? And then linen, which is from a plant. So let's see if I can show you how this, so it basically goes along and you're like, okay, cotton, 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 I can get that. And then you get to this, oh, you can start to see it. It's like really shiny through this area. And it feels like it thins out. So here you've got like kind of the cottony stuff, and here you've got the shiny stuff. And you can just see, just holding it up, how in the light, that's not just the light in a different way. Like that really is, it really does shine like that. And it feels like it collapses in a way. So this, even though it's the same thickness and everything, it feels thinner, and it's so slippery. So like you might make a loop and then you make the next loop, but if you pull too much, you've got nothing left of the first loop, and then you've got a giant second loop. whereas opposed to the cottony part, it has grip, right? And it holds itself. It holds on to itself. It doesn't want to let go. So that's been really interesting to work with this and what it's doing. So I've started making a shawl. Now, I mentioned earlier that I've been playing Lord of the Rings online, and there's some videos out there because I stream on Thursdays. So if you're into Lord of the Rings online or any other MMORPGs, you should definitely come along and watch me over on the official Lotro stream channel. So, but in the meantime, so I've started the shawl, and the shawl pattern is called Goldberry. So that was one of the reasons I was very attracted to it. So it starts up here. This is the top. And this is as far as I've gotten so far with it. But you can see a little bit, let's see. Let me see if I can tuck that in to make it hold. So again, little apartment, trying to come up with multiple ways to use things. So this is actually a laptop, a lap thing for your laptop. So this is pulling multiple duty here, but right now it is all about the crafting. So yeah, you can kind of see like there's areas where it's a little bit shimmery, which I thought was perfect because Goldberry is the water maiden's daughter. And I think this is the wrong side too, because yeah, there's a ridge that we did. I'm just gonna turn it around, where it was working in back loop only, which is something I've done before, but again, it was really good to review and learn this. So you can see there's kind of like a ridge that runs along here. And then you can see, hopefully you can kind of see some of the pooling, where pooling is where the yarn of a certain color kind of lumps together in one area, just because the yarn just happens to fall there next to each other. So we're definitely getting some of that, where it's like there's some of the sparkly viscose yarn, and then the row above it, it showed up at the same time. So we're getting some of that, those little water shimmery kind of look, which I think is fantastic. It's so perfect for the project. So I'm really excited about that. So, okay, so there you go. You got to see that one in progress. Okay, so I went ahead, like I said, I bought those things, and I'm waiting to finish the blanket. And I was like, well, it's going to be a while before the yarn arrives. So between that and kind of a little ahead before that, I went a little yarn crazy. I couldn't wait. I was like, I'm going to go online and I'm going to go try and find some things. So I don't know, somehow I came across like somebody doing an unboxing or something of IceYarns. Now, IceYarns is located in Turkey, and their website is like horrible. Horrible is not the right word. Their website is overwhelming. And the way it's organized kind of works, but it's one of those where I think it works better once you know how it works. And so if you're new to the website, you're just like, wow, I don't even know where to look, because they have, I think it's something like over 5,000 different yarn options, and they don't sell individuals. Like, you can't just go and buy this. They sell bags, basically lots of yarn. So but I went in and took a look, and I was like, all right, let's see if there's anything there. And so I found some things that I really loved. Now, one of the crazy things about buying yarn from IceYarns is it's super cheap. I don't know if it's because they just make it in bulk, or because they have access to so many animals there, or like what's the scoop, but I mean, they're huge in the industry, in the world, in terms of making stuff. So I bought some IceYarns, and but then they say, okay, it's going to be like between 2 and 5 weeks before it arrives. Like it could be like 2 months down the road, basically, before I see this yarn. So I got a little antsy, and then I put it in an order at Hobbii also. And Hobbii is a website, Hobbii. And I've been watching TL Yarn Crafts on YouTube, and she does like unboxings and talks about yarns that she has interacted with and encountered. But she's in the US, and so she has access to yarns that I might not. And so there's times when she's talking about something, I was like, oh, well, that's cool, but I don't think I want to ship it here from the US. That doesn't seem, ecologically friendly, and doesn't sound like it's economically a good choice either. So I kind of go, oh, well, never mind. But then there's a Hobbii.nl. .nl is the extension for websites here in the Netherlands. And I'm so used to, like, on TV, how they'll be like, go to, Albert.nl. So yeah, that's what I say now. I'm so Dutch. So I went to Hobbii.nl and I ordered some stuff from them. And that was going to come in like, 2 to 5 days or whatever. It's like, yes, I'll have more yarn in my hands. And so I started coming up with ideas about what I'm going to make with all of this and everything. So I ordered the Hobbii yarn on the 31st of May. It arrived June 5th. I ordered the IceYarns on the 27th of May. It arrived June 7th. So all of a sudden I have all this yarn around me and I have to figure out where it's going to live and while I'm stacking them up to be able to make projects. So, okay. So we're going to do some unboxing. I've already opened it all. All right. I'm just going to tell you that right up straight front. But we're going to start with the Hobbii yarn that I ordered. So it came in, I should say, this cute little bag. It's a plastic bag. I don't think the bag is recyclable. So that's, the only bummer there, unless I'm missing a recycling symbol on here, but I think it is not. So, but at least it wasn't a bunch of cardboard, but although you could recycle cardboard. Anyway, everything has an environmental cost. We know this. All right, so what I ordered were 2 yarn cakes because I'm just so in love with the yarn cakes these days. So I had my little, got my invoice here, and it just tells me what I ordered, the date that I ordered it, and how many. So één stuk is the thing for one piece. It's Dutch. So I love the fact that everything on here is in Dutch. It's helping me to learn a little bit more. For example, I knew what this said pretty much just by context. I'll probably pronounce it wrong, so just forgive me here. But maak een unboxing video en win. So this is a sort of an unboxing video. We'll tell them about it later. All right, so there's my invoice. So for ordering stuff, they threw in a free gift, which I knew was going to be in here, and it's a couple of shawl pins. Aren't those cute? Oh, you can't even see them. It's bright in here. It's like it's the time of day when the sun is falling down behind in front of me. So, but yeah, so these shawl pins that you would use to hold your shawl closed. I have never used one of these that I know of. So I'm kind of interested to see how that's going to work for me. And so that's cool. It's cool. It'll take me out of my comfort zone. All right, so the 2 things that I got. So the first one is this one, and the type of brand this is Dahlia Summer, and summer is it's summertime. So this is like a limited thing they do. I guess they do limited stocks of various types of colors. So this is the Dahlia Summer, and it is 100% cotton. So this will be one of my first forays out into using 100% cotton. So that's kind of exciting. This one is 200 grams, also 800 meters. So one of the things I've been doing is I'm looking at shawls and trying to figure out like what do I want to make. Oh, it just feels so good. Is how long something is, how many meters is it? Because that's really important. So that's something that I'm, skilling up. And what did I want to tell you this? Oh, so this is color number 3. Oh, this is color, does it have the name here? It doesn't have the name listed there. Uh-oh, hang on. I got to go to my emails. This is why I kept my email handy. Let me see. Hobbii. Tell me, what did I order? That's not it. I got Simon from Hobbii telling me it's on the way. So that's pretty neat. Thanks. Welcome to the Hobbii family. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so this one is called Frisbee. So they went with summer names. So that's kind of funny. But because what I find funny about this is here I am living in the Netherlands and they have something called Frisbee, and I very much associate Frisbees with the US, but maybe people play Frisbee in the Netherlands too. I don't know, maybe that's a thing. Either that or they were going for a US kitsch. I don't actually know. So if you are from the Netherlands and you know about whether or not people play Frisbee here and how long that's been going on, put that in the comments. I will be putting this video on YouTube. So on the YouTube comments, please, make some notes there so I know if that is something that is common or not in the Netherlands. Okay. Because I have memories of when I'm like, knee-high to a grasshopper and, all the hippies coming around and playing Frisbee, and it gets up on the roof and somebody's got to climb up there and pop it back down and, all that sort of stuff. And they're, ripped up jeans and stuff, so jean shorts. Yeah, that's what I think of when I think of Frisbee. So I don't think Netherlands, but maybe I'm wrong. Okay, so anyway, look at these fun colors. So you've got this like pink in the middle, and then you've got like this darker pink out here, and then you get into the yellows and then some greens and then some darker greens. So this one's gonna be fun. It is a #2 fine weight. So I think this will still be good for like a summertime shawl. I don't think it'll be too heavy. I think that'll be good. I have some ideas on which one I'm going to make with this, but I'm not 100% sure yet. But what really got me to order is this one, and this one's called Sand Castles. And this is the one that I thought about it, I slept on it, thought about it, slept on it, thought about it, slept on it. I'm like, I just have to get this. It's just too gorgeous. So here we are, Dahlia Summer, and this one's called Sandcastles. And it's really like a really light set of colors. They're really, I don't know, muted isn't quite the right word because they're very strong colors still, but we've got kind of like an orangey peach kind of thing going here. And then you get into like some pinks. And then this is kind of variegated in here. You've got a little bit of green mixed with the yellow. So that's going to be a neat transition. I'm actually really excited about that. And then we get into this yellow on the outside. And it just, it's just delicious. I'm so excited to get to work with it. I mean, Goldberry is going to happen first. We're going to finish Goldberry first. But then this might be the next one. Well, okay, I'm going to work on Goldberry until the yarn arrives to finish my blanket. Then I'm going to finish my blanket. But this one is definitely like really up there. So I'm so excited, so excited. Oh, I love this yarn. It was one of those where I was like, honey, do you think I should buy it? He's like, I don't know, you got a lot of yarn count. I'm like, and then I was like, what do you think I should do? And he's like, well, I suppose if you want to. And then and then we're like, well, I guess if you want to get them. I'm like, oh, I already did. I put in the order like 10 minutes ago. Okay. So it's good that we have a good relationship. So anyway, I'm so excited about this yarn. It just, it makes me happy. And it has this like t-shirt, like a worn t-shirt that you love, that you've had for like 7 years. It kind of has that comfortable feeling to it. Oh, I'm so excited about this one. I love this one. Okay, so there you go. So those are the Hobbii yarns that I picked out. I tried to not go overboard because, like I said, I had just put in this big IceYarns thing. Hello, hey, Misty Weaver, welcome. We're kind of getting into the downslope, but you're here just in time for an unboxing of my IceYarns. So here we go. So remember how I said before, IceYarns, they don't do individuals. So you can't buy something like this. You have to buy large groups. So that's what I did. So let's see, what was the first one I chose in this group? I can't remember. We're just going to start with this one. So we live in the Netherlands, and the national colors, so the flag is red and white and blue in the flag, but the national color is orange. And part of that is because the House of Orange is the royal family comes from the House of Orange. So so I got orange because I want to make things that are orange. So this pack is, I'm going to turn the light on. We're getting a little dark here. Where did I put my little singles? Oh, that's so funny. So I went ahead and opened some of these, and I was just like petting them last night. So this one is orange, and then I also got a dark orange. Actually, I'm not sure which is which. One of these is dark orange, and one of these is orange. Now, from the pictures, I thought they would be complementary, like one would be a darker version of the other, but these do feel, thank you for putting the shout out in Discord. Appreciate that. So yeah, so I thought these might be good. Like I could do a shawl where it's like some stripes of one and then some stripes of the other and go back and forth. But when I saw them together, I don't think that's really going to work out. I think they're going to be two separate things. So what I may end up doing is, this with something else and then this with something else. I think that's how this is going to go. So there's big events in the Netherlands, like the King's birthday, Koningsdag, that happens in the spring. And so maybe I'll make some sweaters and shawls and scarves and, just do all sorts of crazy stuff. But these orange ones though, these are natural cotton fine. It's 100% cotton. This is a 50 gram. So this is actually the same size, same weight as this. And I know it doesn't look like they look wackily different, right? Like this one looks way smaller. But I mean, by weight, they should be the same. And let's see, this is, like I said, 100% cotton and 150 meters. And this one says it's 140 meters. So this one should go pretty far. And I know how far these go because I've been paying attention on the blanket. Like every time I finish a skein, I've been keeping the outer part so I could count how many skeins of the yarn it took to make the blanket. So I know these are going to go really far. So I'm so excited because each of these bags has 8 of these in it. So I'm probably gonna share with friends, you know. But we'll be able to make all sorts of fun things with those. So those are my 2 oranges, and I'm really excited to make some fun Dutch things with that. There's a like a shawl that I saw, and it's basically you leave gaps in various places to make the tall Dutch houses that you see, and so something solid like this could work. Now the shawl is made in kind of like a simple, like a plain white, like, you know, like the ivory is what I've seen it done in. But I wonder if I did something in a bright color like this, if it would still have the same look. So I'm gonna think about that. I'm gonna decide, I don't know, we'll think about that. But I'm really excited about being able to make anything orange I want. Yeah, it's like when I play Lotro, there's a thing you can do where there's a scholar, which is like a profession you can do, and you can make dyes. And so I always have like them make me like way too many dyes, so I can just dye anything I want. So that's what this is basically for me in real life though. Now I can make anything I want, but in orange. So pretty excited about that. Okay, so remember I was saying earlier that viscose was something that I wanted to play with, and that's that plant-based yarn. So this might have been the first choice I made. So I saw this, and it's a dark brown, and it's super slippery. It's like, whoa, you could like ice skate across that. So that's very Dutch. So this is 40% viscose and 60% polyamide, which that polyamide is basically it's manufactured fiber. It's, you know, I can't remember if it's actually made out of the same stuff as acrylic, but I think they're in the same kind of family. It's like Kevlar makes this, comes from the same thing, I'm pretty sure. So anyway, so made in Turkey, because it is a IceYarns brand. And this is 50 grams, 200 meters. So again, I mean, it's the same grams as this. So that is really, it's really interesting that I'm like finding other things, but like I've got a baseline now, right, of understanding where this is. So, but yeah, it's super slippery. I don't know if you can see in the light how it's very shiny. Oh yeah, there you go. Shiny, woo. And yeah, it's just slippery. Like you could just slide right off of that. So I'm gonna have to look again at the patterns and see what can you make with this, because it's so slippery. It just like, and that's one of the things I've been learning with that, with the bloom that I've been working with, about switching back and forth between those fibers and learning how to keep my tension really steady, even with something as slippery as this. So this is really interesting, and I'm really keen to figure out, to see how this, you know, comes into play in the future. This is kind of more stash right now than active project. So, but I'm very interested to find out how this works. And there is that idea where you can put like multiple strands from different types of yarn, you know, like you hold them together and you crochet with them together. So that could be something I do with this. I don't know, but I have 6 balls of that to play with. So that's pretty neat. All right, oh, I was going to show you, I totally forgot, let me move this out of the way. So remember when I was saying about how it's super cheap to buy that stuff from those folks? So for example, here's what I have bought. So you got a little spoiler there at the top of what's coming next. Yeah, it's hand-dyed sock yarn, which again, remember I was talking about wanting to get into different things that are sourced more locally. And so, you know, this is hand-dyed. Like, how did they manage to get this in some sort of bulk? Well, they didn't necessarily have it in bulk because it sold out. I mean, I think they had a limited amount. And I think that's one of the things that they do. So I got 4 skeins. There's only 2 in here. I was playing with the others last night, and I set it aside somewhere because I was like lying in bed, like just touching my new yarn. So yeah, so four of these for $11.99, which is an insane price. Like you would find one of these for $11.99. You would find one of these for like $20 or $30 easily. Now, the prices I have there are listed in dollars because we paid online and we have a PayPal account that's still tied to our US bank account. So I just paid in dollars. Otherwise, I would have been paying in euros. Yeah, so, but that's okay. Like at some point we need to move our money from the US over here. And if I do it in balls of yarn, I guess that's one way to do it. So yes, so this, look at all those fun colors though. We've got like this kind of like chocolatey mix, like fudge kind of is what that makes me think of over here. And then it does transition. All right, I can move more of the label out of the way. So you've got, then it transitions, you've got like this pinkish, it's like dark pink with some white going on there. So that's nice because then it won't be so intense. And then it's also got these blues and some like kind of greens splashed in there, like just a splash of green just for funs. So I'm really interested to see like how the colors pool together on this, right? Because like as you go across, it's going to be, you know, pink for a while and then green for a while, then, you know, whatever. And so when you come back, like how are those colors? Like, is it going to be just a splattering all the way through, or are the colors going to find each other at different places and make little splotches of color? I don't know. I'm really interested to see how this comes together. So this is also an IceYarns brand because, you know, that's all their stuff pretty much. And this is 75% superwash wool. So my understanding is that it's not going to pill. It's not going to like, you know, get stringy and pull apart like you kind of get with some wool sweaters and things. And then 25% of the polyamide. So still not getting 100% away from the plastics and the acrylics and the polys, but we're getting closer, right? Like the oranges, those are 100% cotton. So we're making progress, I feel. Although cotton also is very intensive with water usage and stuff like that. So everything has a cost to the environment. So my hope is that I bought things that have lower cost to the environment than possibly things I have used in the past. That is my hope. So yeah, so I got four of these skeins for $11.99. That is like ridiculous prices. I don't know if you've bought yarn like this before, but okay, so there was TL Yarn Crafts, I mentioned earlier. She online did a partnership with a yarn dyer, and I got 3 skeins of the special collection, and I think they were like 15, somewhere between $15 and $25 each. And this is $11.99 for 4. Now, oh, and then we'll come back to this in a second. But then also, the very first thing when I opened the box was they had included this cute little bag, which I thought that's very nice. Like I already have a bag addiction. I don't need more bags, but oh my gosh, I'll take it because it's a cute one. Now, I run conventions, and so I know, you know, a bit about these things. And so I understand what they've done here. And, you know, probably the price point they were paying for something like this, but I still thought it was a really nice touch and absolutely unexpected. It wasn't on the invoice or anything like that. So that was really neat. So yay, thank you IceYarns for the free bag. That was very, very cool. All right, so one thing to think about, though, if you're ever buying from IceYarns, like if this is something that comes up on your mind and you're like, maybe I'll do that someday, is shipping. So shipping is not included in those prices. So I got, you know, 4 of these for $11.99, and the dark brown viscose that I showed you, you know, the 6 of those for $2.99. I mean, literally, that's $2.99 for this entire pack. That's insane. Like, I don't even know. Yeah. And then, you know, each of these packs with 8 of these in it were $2.99 for the whole pack. $2.99 for this whole thing. However, and I went ahead and put this on the screen. This is why I wanted to show you. So that was a subtotal of like $21 US dollars. But shipping was another $28. So really the total was $50. So kind of think of each of those as double that price, maybe double and a half, in order to absorb that shipping cost. So really, instead of thinking of this as being like $3, think of it as being more like double, so 6, and add a little more. So maybe this is like 7 or 8, but still. Okay, so let's call this $8. That's like $1 per skein. This was not $1 per skein. Now this wasn't bad though. This was like 3 for the skein, and it's gorgeous yarn, and it's, you know, from here in the country. So I'm pretty, I mean, I will happily pay that €3. So that's sorry, that was €3. But yeah, so think of these as like $1 per skein. And then if you, do the same thing basically, then double this. So instead of 12, it's 24. Maybe add a little bit more. So more like, I don't know, let's call it, well, if at 24 divided by 4, that's 6. So let's call this between $6 and $8 per skein. That's still insane. Those are insane prices. So, yeah, I would say IceYarns is a really great deal. Obviously, I haven't played with it yet, so I don't know, the quality, long term, all of that. But I did some searching online, and there's not a lot of information about people who have used a lot of IceYarns. There's a number of unboxing videos, and there's a woman in Kenya who gets a lot of IceYarn, and so I've been watching her massive unboxing videos. So that's been fun. So I don't know how this will come together. I'm curious, to use some of the yarns. Here's something cool though. As I was playing with it last night, as you can see, I'm squishing it because it's just so fun to squish. That it's already become much bigger than the skeins in the bag. So in the bag, it definitely seems to, have compressed things a lot, which explains why, even look at this one, he's starting to try and pop out over his little tag. So I think, it definitely seems to be maybe vacuum compressed for the shipping, and then it poofs out as it spends some time out in the air. Okay, so that was like a double unboxing, if you like, about the things. And then, so now, of course, we've got yarn coming from our friendly local yarn store, so I can finish my blanket, and possibly other things. I've got a box coming actually from the US. I got in on like an Olympics box where you will be crafting stuff along with the Olympics. So I might do some videos to kind of show you what that looks like. It's not necessarily anything Dutch, but show you what it's like to receive a package in the Netherlands from the U.S. So maybe we'll talk about that another time. So that was pretty much what I wanted to do. I wanted to kind of spend today talking about going out and what kinds of experiences I've had so far in buying yarn here in the Netherlands. So really, it's been 3 different places that I've been buying yarn from. So one is from our local yarn shop where I've gotten the stuff, and it's been really cool because I can touch it, I can look at it in person, I can, and anything that you've been touching, like because of the pandemic still, she was like, she'll set it aside and let it, spend some time before she puts it back on the shelf for somebody else to touch. So the amount of, personal touch that you get from the local yarn shop has been fantastic. And I'm really pleased to be able to have access to that, because I've been looking for others, and there aren't a lot of other local yarn shops in this region. So I'm really grateful that I have access to that. And then having Hobbii.nl available to me so I can get these beautiful cakes. That is so cool. I'm really happy about that. And it's also helping me skill up on my Dutch a little bit. So that's also good, because anything that helps me get better about practicing my Dutch is a good thing. That's a good thing. I need help. And then, of course, the IceYarns bundle that I got from Turkey. So I feel like it's, it's on this continent, right? Like it's geographically connected, even though it probably came by boat or by plane. They probably didn't bring it over on a horse, so or on a bicycle. But yeah, so that's what it's been like for me buying yarn here in the Netherlands, and how that journey is going. So as things continue on, I will let you know. Like as things open up and people start gathering together, it wouldn't surprise me to see like some crafting groups kind of reform. I know the local yarn shop was doing that, and so that might be something that I check in on and see how it goes. We'll find out. That would be another opportunity for me to get much better with my Dutch, for sure. So my hope is to do these on a semi-regular basis, get together and just have a chit-chat about, pick a topic, and we will discuss what it's like and living in the Netherlands under that topic. And over time, you'll get to see, as I progress to become more and more Dutch, hopefully. And we'll just see how that goes. So I will be posting this up on my YouTube, and then I also have a website, NikkiAbridged.com. And so feel free to follow me along on any of those. Also have a Twitter at Nikki Abridged, of course. And if you have specific topics you would like to see me talk about in the future, let me know. We also have some video stuff. So we're going to hopefully, as we do go out and are taking more walks over the next year or so, we'll be able to get some video and you can see what it's like to walk around in the cities and towns here in the Netherlands as well. All right, so I think we are going to call that, we're going to post it, print it, and call it good. Thank you so much for coming along with me today, and we will see you next time on Nikki Abridged. Thanks so much. All right, bye-bye.